And we're back on TCM with our Growing Up on Screen series. Tonight, it's all about Jodie Foster, the two-time Oscar-winning actor, producer, and director who started her career as a child actor, and she joins me again tonight. Hi, Jodie.
Hey there.
You know, I always felt a little bit of a kinship with you because we share the same first name, although you pronounce it differently.
That's right. You're Alicia, I'm Alicia. But nobody's ever really called me that, so I don't have much of a relationship to it.
Yeah, how did Jodie come about?
You know, my brothers and sisters called me Jodie when I was in my mother's stomach. That was the name that they had come up for me. And my mom wasn't really going to name me that, I think. And then they got really mad. Once I was born, they got really mad that she put a different name on my birth certificate, and they refused to call me the other name. So Jodie stuck.
Well, I've always enjoyed watching you, especially as a teenage girl myself, because I loved seeing you play these very capable young girls. I don't know how much you were an architect of your own career at that point, but were you drawn to roles like Rin that we're about to see in The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane?
Yeah, I mean, I like dramas. Dramas really moved me as a kid. You know, I liked sad stories. I liked those kinds of movies. And so I always wanted to be a dramatic actress. By the time I was that age, I was really starting to get interested in the idea of creating a character, what that meant and what somebody's backstory was, and, you know, psychologically where they came from and how they had possibly been damaged or how they were healing themselves. All those things became interesting to me as soon as I reached about the age of 12.
And I know you were a voracious reader at this time. So did you turn to books as part of your research?
I'm not sure that I did a lot of research when I was a kid. Honestly, I didn't. I think I just thought through the character in my mind, and maybe I thought of other books that I had read about them. But I did have to do a certain amount of research while I was shooting a movie. Let's just say the character of Rin has to speak Hebrew. So I, took books home and tried to learn a little bit of Hebrew, or the character knows how to chop wood, then I would have to learn how to chop wood. So all of those circumstances kind of brought me into whatever it was that the character was doing at that time.
And I know many people have talked about you as a child actor and just how you seem so wise beyond your years and how you seem to really have an understanding of these complex characters. I feel like every time I see you as a kid in one of these films, I think, how do you do it? How do you understand characters like this?
I was able to compartmentalize. And I think that was something that was very helpful as an actor. I was able to be in the moment, completely and totally in the moment and focused on it. And then 5 seconds later, once they said cut, to be able to shift my focus and, totally lose sight of where I was. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to have that in life, but it does seem to be a skill that I have.
And I'm sure it was helpful on this film, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. You play Rin, who is a mysterious teenager living with a very dark secret. And your scenes with Martin Sheen, who plays a very creepy character, I imagine that must be where it was helpful for you to be able to shake it off afterwards, because it must have been so instinctual. Like in the opening scene, as we'll see, he forces his way through the door. I mean, you must have just recoiled from him, because it feels like that's so often what young girls go through with this sort of unwanted male attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I understood, but I really like Martin Sheen a lot. So, of course, I knew him as an actor. He's very playful and funny. I didn't have any residual feelings or creepiness about him. In fact, we laughed about the fact that he was playing this creepy character because he is one of the nicest guys in the world. I'm always at a loss to figure out what actors do and how they do it. It's a strange skill to be able to be in the moment and also be outside the moment watching yourself, to be able to be sort of dancing in that moment and feeling those feelings, and yet also be the architect of those feelings.
So let's watch you in action. Here you are in 1976. This is The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane. And that was The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, a very chilling ending, a beautiful shot on the face of Jodie Foster, and she joins us now. Jodie, when you think back to making this film, what are some of your memories?
Well, it was freezing cold in Montreal. That's one of the things that I remember. I don't think I'd ever been that cold. And I was wearing fake teeth. I don't know if you noticed that. They gave me an entire prosthetic set of fake teeth just so that I could have a cracked tooth. The director was really keen on that because that's what it said in the book. And so he wanted to make sure that he recreated that in the movie. Also, the long hair, which is a wig. So there was a part of me that felt a little uncomfortable wearing a wig and fake teeth. And especially when I got outside in the cold, I found that I couldn't talk properly. So I do have a funny speech pattern in the film.
Well, it's amazing when you see you as the character Rin. I mean, she is someone who is just 5 steps ahead of everyone else. What do you appreciate about this character?
I love playing thinking characters, and I know that I've always been drawn to that even as a child. I feel like we are thinking beings, and very often acting can really focus only on our emotional lives, but we are also thinking people that cover up. That have protective layers, that are busy strategizing and presenting. And I think that those layers are also just as interesting as what's going on inside.
And I know when I see a picture of myself or some video of myself when I'm a teenager, it seems almost like another person. When you watch yourself in these films, do you go back to that time or does it feel a bit like an out of body experience?
It is funny looking at yourself on screen. These are my home movies. And interestingly, nobody ever took home movies of me as a kid, and they took no pictures of me as a kid. I guess because I was the last child in the family, so there are virtually no pictures of me, but I have all of this footage, which is strange, that my kids can see me walking and talking and doing things. Yeah, it is a weird vision of your childhood because, of course, I have the memories of making those movies, but from the inside of my face, not on the outside. Hard to describe that, but yeah, it is odd seeing your whole life in front of a screen.
And you got to have your big sister on this set for a little bit. She was a body double for that brief nude scene, and she was also a body double and Taxi Driver as well. Was it nice to have her around?
Yeah, I guess my mom figured out a way to get my sister to come hang out with us, and they needed to have an adult person who was that size and, who could sort of look like me from behind or from above. And so my sister obliged. She's always been a little bit smaller than me. She still is a little bit smaller than me. And so it was fun having her on set.
We were talking about 1976 being a big year for you, the year that this film was released. And, lately there's been a lot of much needed discourse about the way that the press has historically treated young girls in the spotlight. How did you manage to navigate that side of things? I imagine in the 1970s and 80s, the questions may have been even more egregious.
People say, how did you survive intact because of all of the attention and the strange circumstances? I say that I had survival tools, and those survival tools got me through everything. But it is a little bit like breathing through a reed, trying to go underwater and breathe through a reed. It alters your universe, I think. And there are positive sides of how I've come out the other end. And I'm sure there are negative damage sides as well.
Well, Jodie Foster, we are so excited to have you here with us tonight on TCM to share all of your memories. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And coming up after the break, Jodie will be back as we talk about a film made just a couple of years later, the directorial debut for Adrian Lyne, also the acting debut for Cherie Curry from The Runaways.